can still fucking see you, mini-me.
Wife's on the line. She says she lost her checkbook.
Thanks for the good news. You give a calculator to a fucking retard, he's gonna try to turn on a TV with it.
Mr. Jameson, your wife is on line 1. She needs to know if you...
Jameson, this is page 6 problem.
We have a page 1 problem. Shut up.
She just needs to know if you want the chintz or the Chanel in the dining room.
Whichever one's cheaper.
J.K. Simmons is probably one of the funniest and most popular character actors of the 21st century. People remember him from the role that got him his Oscar as Terrence Fletcher, to the wacky side character of J. Jonah Jameson in the original Spider-Man trilogy, a character that was so popular that they cast him again in the MCU, and audiences lost their mind. J.K. Simmons always seems to play this wise-talking douche in all his most popular roles. He seems to always get the upper hand on the people he talks to, constantly asserting power through clever lines and snappish moments. Like, I hadn't seen a single scene where J.K. Simmons lost in a conversation exchange, and no, this scene does not count. So when I sat down to watch Up in the Air and J.K. Simmons showed up as a side character cameo, I was immediately greeted with him playing the same smarmy, smartest man in the room kind of like character.
How much did they first pay you to give up on your dreams?
27 grand a year.
And when were you going to stop and come back and do what makes you happy?
However, as the scene went on, the power he holds completely dissipates. To me, this scene is a perfect example of how good dialogue can create a powerful scene. A dialogue scene that not only perfectly encapsulates the themes and characters of the movie, but also shows how the words you say and the tone you say them in can completely shift the power in a conversation. Today, I want to talk about this one scene from the brilliant movie of Up in the Air and how it uses dialogue in a realistic setting to show how you can gain power and adapt to the situation. Before we go into the scene, I just want to emphasize that you do not need to watch Up in the Air to get the most of this video or understand strong dialogue. I will set up the scene before we talk about it and everything that has happened in the movie up until that point. But even before that, we gotta discuss the goals of what makes good dialogue. The first thing to remember when having a scene of good dialogue is to make it sound natural. You don't want it to be outlandish, and that's why I emphasize that although you don't need to watch Up in the Air, I will still have to set the stage and emphasize who the characters are and what is going on in the movie. Good dialogue has things being said that each character would say and react to. It's gotta be appropriate, essentially. The second thing is that when each character speaks, their dialogue contains subtext on top of what is normally being stated. What that means is that there is a hidden or deep message behind the general things being stated. Usually, this works with the themes of the movie. But the last thing, and what I think is the most important of what makes dialogue very engrossing to watch, kind of like an action scene, is that it combines a combination of both action and reaction. It is like watching a tennis match, for example, where what makes a conversation interesting to watch is where you don't want to look away when the characters are fighting for control over the situation through words and conversation. Like a tennis match of going back and forth, good dialogue is more enthralling through the switching of control and power. That's where witty and clever lines can come in and help in this area, making a scene not only more entertaining and stand out, but also keep the conversation fresh. Now that we have the basics of good dialogue, we can go into Up in the Air. Let's set the scene. So for those who don't know, I would implore you to watch Up in the Air. It's a pretty underrated film with, 6 Oscar nominations? Okay, who did it lose to? Okay, Hurt Locker is pretty good. Wait, Avatar was nominated that year too? God damn it, Academy. Here's the general gist of the movie. George Clooney essentially plays this charismatic dude whose job it is to fire random people he hasn't seen for other companies, kinda like a consulting firm. At this point in the movie, he takes on a mentee in a character played by Anna Kendrick. You know, the Pitch Perfect girl. There's a ton of other things in this movie too, from a subplot involving a romantic interest played by Vera Farmiga, the conflict of the job evolving to firing people online, and of course, George Clooney's main character arc of caring for family and those closest to him. But for now, you just gotta know this. George Clooney's there, he fires people, he's good at it. Anna Kendrick is there, she's the rookie mentee, she thinks she's super smart and is learning to also fire people as well. And this is when J.K. Simmons comes in as the next person they have to fire, their so-called client. Now, we can go over the scene. So for this next section, I want to do something a little different. Instead of talking about the scene as a whole with examples, I'm going to play the scene and pause it after every piece of dialogue to show how the scene evolves and power shifts between the three individuals. I would play the clip as a whole to start, but copyright issues, so I can't, unfortunately. With that said, let's start our analysis. Obviously, going into the scene, since I already set the stage, you know that both George Clooney and Anna Kendrick hold the power in this scene over their quote-unquote client that they're firing, J.K. Simmons. In fact, the scene doesn't even show them telling him that he's being fired.
Never say fired.
Okay, my bad. I meant let go, since, well, we've already established that. So instead, let's take a look at what J.K. Simmons says when he learns about the news, which is actually what starts the scene.
What do you suggest I tell them?
Here, J.K. Simmons employs our classic technique of guilt tripping. He gains power back in his hands by asking Clooney and Kendrick this non-rhetorical question of relating his getting fired to his kids' reaction. This is not only a low-key clever tactic to have them pity him and trip up in their firing tactics, but Simmons asking them this in the form of a question rather than just saying, "Man, my kids are not going to be happy," makes them have to respond, which puts them on the defensive, where he now has control of the situation. With them on the back foot now, Clooney and Kendrick take a second stunned, but Anna Kendrick thinks on her feet and is the one to respond.
Perhaps you're underestimating the positive effect that your career transition can have on your children.
The positive effect.
Her reactionary response is an intellectual way to try to gain power back. We honestly think she has gained the power back because she's pretty smart, until of course the rug gets pulled out from under us.
Make about 90 grand a year now. Unemployment is what, $250 a week? Is that one of your positive effects? I get to be cozier because I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage on my house, so maybe we can move into a nice fucking one-bedroom apartment somewhere.
J.K. Simmons' response is a calm reaction that very easily outsmarts Anna Kendrick. This shows she is not as smart as she thinks she is. He easily adds on to the topic of benefits by absolutely ripping her response apart with ease. He gains power back once again.
Tests have shown that children under moderate trauma have a tendency to apply themselves academically as a method of coping.
And then Kendrick easily doubles down on her dumb responses, clearly shown by Clooney, who is her mentor, reacting with pure shock. She's a rookie who wants to show her intelligence and thus gain power back in the conversation. But in doing so, she comes across as apathetic and disrespectful, which of course leads to this legendary reaction.
Go fuck yourself. That's what my kids will think.
J.K. Simmons' reaction is very understandable and low-key warranted. He not only can get away with ripping into Anna Kendrick as the person who fired him, he doubles down further by adding the line about his kids. At this point, J.K. Simmons seems to have won the exchange. His power level is at his highest, and we think it's over for our protagonists. In any other normal film, this is where J.K. Simmons would shine. But this film does something different, and this is when George Clooney steps in and flips the narrative.
Children's admiration is important to you?
Yeah.
This is when the scene shifts, not only in power, but in tone. Throughout the conversation, you could pretty much be asking yourself who's in control of the situation. Here, George Clooney is trying to do just that. He identifies what's most important to J.K. Simmons, or Bob, in this universe by asking about his kids' admiration. He identifies that it's not only family, but pride that is important to him. Also, notice the tone Clooney uses here. He starts small to build up the confidence and power J.K. Simmons currently has in the conversation, just to throw him off balance. But just when he least expects it is when he hits him with the gut punch of the tough love act.
I doubt they ever admired you, Bob.
Hey, asshole, aren't you supposed to be consoling me?
Clooney is taking control of the narrative. J.K. Simmons low-key freaks out from his question, cause that would make sense. His line of, "Aren't you supposed to be consoling me?" shows that he expects power to be under him and has a visualization of how this conversation will go. With J.K. Simmons' head now swirling with where this is possibly heading, Clooney continues.
Not a shrink, Bob. I'm a wake-up call. You know why kids love athletes?
I don't know, because they screw lingerie models.
No, that's why we love athletes. Kids love athletes because they follow their dreams.
Clooney continues to assert power through this clever analogy about athletes and admiration that initially seems out of nowhere. At this point, J.K. Simmons is in shock and continues with his next attempt to gain power back.
Well, I can't dunk.
Simmons tries to get power back by essentially saying, "Who cares? I'm not an athlete," but at this point, Clooney has taken control of the situation and thus brings something up that seems to be completely out of nowhere. leading to an even more confused Simmons.
But you can cook.
What are you talking about?
Your resume says that you minored in French culinary arts, and then you get out of college, and you come and you work here.
Clooney throws Simmons, Anna Kendrick, and the audience all off balance with revealing J.K. Simmons' past. Clooney uses knowledge in an effective way with a strategy called an ad hominem attack. This is essentially a rhetorical persuasion tactic that is designed to damage a person's credibility in the argument rather than addressing the topic at hand. It's not that they're damaging the person's credibility overall, it's they're damaging the person's credibility in the argument. So in this case, Clooney uses Bob's passion for cooking to show he had potential elsewhere, and that getting fired really shouldn't be that bad of an outcome. Rather than addressing the fact that his kids will be unhappy with his job loss, he digs into Bob's past to make him question if getting fired can actually be an opportunity. Then he hits him with the final gut punch.
How much did they first pay you to give up on your dreams?
27 grand a year.
And when were you going to stop and come back and do what makes you happy?
At this point, Clooney really makes Bob and the audience question and really start to think about this new life Bob can make. He distracts them from the true loss of getting fired with this new light of how they see the situation. Simmons doesn't really know how to respond here, where he defeatedly says,
Question.
instead of actually answering it. This is the climax of the scene, and ends up with Clooney knowing he's won the exchange and Simmons conceding.
I see guys who work at the same company for their entire lives, guys exactly like you. They clock in, they clock out, and they never have a moment of happiness. This is a rebirth. If not for you, do it for your children.
After this is really the falling action of the scene as we really begin to see the back and forth come to a close. Clooney really hammers home the theme here and is when the power has completely shifted. I also really like how Clooney leans back confidently, but not disrespectfully, to show that he himself knows he's won the argument. He drives home the arguments in a real and genuine way without coming across as a total douche. Kendrick is even shocked herself as she was the one who mucked up the situation in the first place. Notice how Clooney never abuses his power in the situation though. He may occasionally speak self-righteously, but he truly believes in what he is saying and wants to make this terrible transition for people easier. However, this is still early into the movie, and Clooney himself has to learn the lessons of the movie, lessons that this scene establishes the importance of. We've just discussed how this scene is able to very strongly attack and defend. Characters continuously act and react to gain power back and forth in the situation. However, not only is this scene a mastery of constant action through dialogue, but its subtext is a perfect summation of the themes, characters, and conflicts that encapsulate the movie. The scene shows different perspectives of characters, in particular the protagonist, George Clooney, his mentee, Anna Kendrick, and the victims affected by firing, like J.K. Simmons. While showing each of their perspectives, the conflicts and themes arise. For example, one of the themes in the movie is experience versus knowledge. This is shown with how Kendrick, who wants to revolutionize this firing industry, can't seem to deal with these people who are at their low points. Meanwhile, Clooney can think on his feet because of his experience. Another theme is starting over and seeing the positivity in moving forward. Once again, this is emphasized below the surface in the conflicts between the three parties, in particular between Clooney and J.K. Simmons. Finally, the last major theme is family and friends being the beacon of hope and happiness when you go through a tough time. This is not just precisely the thing that gets J.K. Simmons to accept his fate, but is also the focus of the character arc that George Clooney will have to go through in the movie. All the lines in the scene lead to this point being established. That includes even the athletes line, which focuses on kids admiring athletes because they follow their dreams. George Clooney is perfect as the character who has to learn these lessons. He preaches them to his clients constantly, but he has to embrace them by the end. And then of course, there's J.K. Simmons, our lovable side character that started it all. He is a reflection of George Clooney in a way, and what will happen to George Clooney one day if he doesn't accept family and love. He consistently shows confidence, but it is being masked with general shame and fear. It shows the importance of learning to adapt and love. In a way, J.K. Simmons is also a representation of the audience. Initially, we can't understand the benefits sometimes of an unlucky situation like getting fired. But we have to learn that when life gives you a bad hand, and you want to essentially say, man, this isn't fair, and I'm gonna prove why you should feel bad for even doing this to me, you should honestly really accept it and rely on those people closest to you to help you get through it. They are your beacon, and they are the reason you are doing what you do. When creating dialogue, this is the scene I always go back to when I love to watch a masterclass. It's as engaging as an action scene with many ups and downs and power shifts between various parties, before this all ultimately reaches a climax in the end and a resolution that presents the themes and message of the movie. One thing I never touched on though is how these scenes also fit the tone of the movie. It fits the genre of being a comedy drama, kinda reminding me of a Groundhog Day-like story of a man having to deal with change through a heartfelt message that is disguised through many comedy moments since the main character is, well, a douche. The funny lines on top of the sudden shifts of power cause suspense to make a scene that truly encapsulates Up in the Air. If you enjoyed watching this hilarious yet intense scene, I would highly recommend watching the full movie. It's full of witty dialogue on top of a genuine character arc and message. Pay attention to how dialogue can shift power in honestly any iconic scene, up in the air or not. In order to do any conversation, it's important to keep things respectful while keeping things real and honest. I implore people to see positivity and look to people closest to them when life has hard times. One small dialogue exchange like this can change your entire perspective on something in your life. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please comment down below what is an iconic scene you remember that will show this shift of power. Please also like, comment, and subscribe as I have been rebranding and growing this new video essay YouTube channel, as well as follow my Instagram account, Filmski07, which updates you about the YouTube as well as adds other fun things like rankings and reviews of other classic and modern films. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope you enjoyed my video. Bye.